All right, now it is time for my top 10 favorite movie trilogies with the listception twist at the end. So I hope you enjoy it. Again, these are all my selections. I have my own personal reasons. I will explain it to you, even though by rule of how we do this, I don't have to explain it to you. Here we go. All right, number 10 is the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. And within that trilogy, my rankings are, the first one is my favorite, the second one is my second favorite, and the third one is my third favorite. I think anybody who's seen the third one knows that it was not the highest of quality, but I do have a very fun connection to this. I love to talk about it. But my uncle was actually a fighting choreographer in Hollywood. His name was Patrick Johnson, and he had a big part of the Ninja Turtles movies. He did a lot of the fighting choreography. He has it's wonderful IMDb if you ever want to go check it out. But there's a picture somewhere that he sent my parents for me when I was younger of him with the Turtles unmasked, and he autographed it. And it was really, really cool. I got to find it. Lord knows where it is, but really, really cool. He passed away like a year and a half ago, so rest in peace to him. But yeah, really, really fun connection with those films. My next one. All right, so this one is one of those kind of gray area ones, like a Rocky, but I'm going to go with Toy Story. All right, because I feel like the first three Toy Stories are a connection, right? There's some bit of a storyline. I know Toy Story 4 happened. It's kind of like, it feels like the start of something new, and I believe they're working on Toy Story 5, but I'm going to put Toy Story as my number 9 favorite movie trilogy, with the second being my favorite one. I watched that movie a lot because it was the only movie that my brother would watch and not talk through when he was younger. We just burned out that VHS tape hitting rewind. My second favorite is the first one, and my third favorite is the third one, which was really, really good in its own right. Really, really fun, but I have fond memories of Toy Story. I had a Woody doll, and I remember going to all of these films when we were in theaters with my, with my family. I remember being 4 or 5 years old at this old movie theater that doesn't exist anymore, and watching Toy Story for the first time, and it just blew my mind away. My number 8 favorite movie trilogy is The Hobbit, which I will say this. I think the Hobbit movies are better than the OG Lord of the Rings, but I like the characters better in the Lord of the Rings. This is just me preference saying it may sound outlandish, but that is what I have chosen. My listception, my favorite movies in descending order. So first, my number 1 favorite is Battle of the Five Armies. I thought it was epic. I did not see that movie coming at all as far as what it would pertain to. My second favorite is the first one, An Unexpected Journey. I always like the beginnings of these films. Are just fun of just charm, and I don't know. They're so good. And a shout out to Peter Jackson. And my third favorite, I won't say least favorite, but third favorite is Desolation of Smog. Again, not a bad movie listed on here at all, I don't think. I think The Hobbit is a very, very good trilogy. Very good trilogy. And I'll have to rewatch it again soon because it has been a while. My number 7 favorite movie trilogy is the Tom Holland Spider-Man trilogy, which just wrapped up in December of 2021. Excellent films all the way. They did it so quick, and I'm glad that they did because Spider-Man had such a nice impact on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. My number 1 favorite is No Way Home. I wrapped up all live-action Spider-Man so well. Obviously, the Tobey Maguire trilogy, the Andrew Garfield 2 movies, and it was everything I loved about Spider-Man just wrapped up into one film, and it was a nice bow on a wonderful present. My second favorite is Far From Home, which I thought was really, really fun story about Spider-Man being overseas, and Mysterio, which I did not care for that character at all. Jake Gyllenhaal did amazing as Mysterio. And then my third favorite for this Tom Holland Spider-Man films is Homecoming. Not a bad film in that mix. My number 6 favorite movie trilogy is the Captain America trilogy. God, so good. Some of the best stuff that Marvel has produced. The number one, I think this might be one of the best superhero movies of all time. I think it's the second best, to be honest with you, is The Winter Soldier. Third best individual superhero film is The Winter Soldier. Such a fun spy thriller. It didn't feel like an MCU movie, and even if you took away the Captain America name, it was still just an epic, like Bond, Jason Bourne type movie. It worked wonderfully. Second favorite of that trilogy is Civil War, and it was basically like an Avengers movie light. And my third favorite was the first Avenger. Again, no complaints. Every movie felt different and unique, but all great movies. So those are my first 5 favorite movie trilogies. We're on to the top 5. My number 5 is, we're going to go with the Dark Knight trilogy. All right, so the Dark Knight is, in my opinion, the greatest superhero movie of all time, greatest comic book movie of all time. I think that's a very popular consensus. Not everybody may agree, but every time I watch this film, there's something new. I find something new. So Dark Knight is number 1 of the Dark Knight trilogy. My second favorite is Dark Knight Rises. And my third favorite is Batman Begins, which I didn't like for a long time, but then I've had a newfound love for it. And I think it works just as well as any of the other ones. So there's my number 5. Number 4, this is where the controversy starts getting going. My number 4 favorite movie trilogy is the OG Star Wars trilogy. And I will explain the controversy in just a couple picks. So, I grew up loving Star Wars. It is probably my favorite movie entertainment property. Hands down, movie entertainment, video games, books, all music, all of the work. Star Wars is hands down that. But yeah, it comes in number 4 here. So my number 1 favorite OG Star Wars movie is Empire Strikes Back. It's a fun adventure. There's so much going on, and I would have loved to be in a movie theater back in 1980 when that little cliffhanger at the end dropped about Darth Vader being Luke Skywalker's father. It's actually really cool. You can look on YouTube and see people's reactions to that being said in the movie theater. Somebody filmed it, and you can hear the gasps from the crowd. Really admirable. It was really cool. My second favorite of the OG Star Wars trilogy is Return of the Jedi, and my third is A New Hope. A New Hope, amazing by its old standard. I think it works really great as just a total complete movie. But by today's standards, it's like the least Star Wars feeling movie. Maybe it's because there's like no lightsabers in it. I'm a huge sucker for lightsabers, but my number 4 is the OG Star Wars trilogy. Number 3, I'm going to go with the Lord of the Rings here. As I said, I love the characters so much more. They're so much more relatable, unforgettable, a really great group of, a really great cast, so to speak. So my favorites in descending order, first and foremost, Return of the King is number 1. That ending was a little long, but there was a ton of action for it, a massive payoff for sitting through all 3 of those films. Sitting through the first 2 films was that movie. Two Towers comes in as my second favorite, and The Fellowship of the Ring comes in as third. Again, not a bad movie. Fun connection with this, the Lord of the Rings movies, that was a Christmas day or day after Christmas gathering that myself, my immediate family, and my cousins, aunts, and uncles would all go. We'd all buy a ticket and go see the movie like the weekend after Christmas, because that's around. It was one of the few times we had to gather, so it's always cool to go to the movies as a big group and go watch that. My number 2, here's where the controversy is. It's the prequel Star Wars trilogy. Now, before you start shouting your head out, I can explain. Again, I don't have to. It is my list, but because you are gracious enough to watch these videos, I will read off explain why. This is my generation of Star Wars. All right. While I admit the OG Star Wars movies are overall much better, the Star Wars prequel trilogy is mine. Like, it's the area that I grew up in, and it's the same for somebody who grew up in the sequel trilogy. All right, there's a whole generation of children, teenagers that grew up with the Rey storyline, and that's their favorite version of Star Wars. And it doesn't make any of us right or wrong about which one is better. But I grew up. This is what I grew up with, and this was my connection to Star Wars. This is my doorway into loving this wonderful universe that George Lucas built up. So, my number one favorite prequel trilogy movie is Revenge of the Sith. I think many can agree that is the best one of that. My second favorite of the prequel trilogy is The Phantom Menace, because that was my first Star Wars movie that I seen in theaters, actually. There's a funny story about A New Hope, but it's neither here nor there. I've seen The Phantom Menace twice. That was the first time I ever seen a movie twice. I've seen it with my dad and sister, and then I loved it so much I went and seen it with my mom, who was pregnant with my younger brother at that time. So, first movie I ever went to the theaters to see twice. And my third favorite is Attack of the Clones. I don't think it's a bad movie by any means. There's a lot of cool excitement. I like the Battle of Geonosis and all that stuff. But that is my number two. And last but not least, my number one favorite movie trilogy of all time is Guardians of the Galaxy. All right. Guardians of the Galaxy, the very first one came to me at a time when I was just, it was rough. It was rough. It was summer of 2014. I was working 2 jobs, just tired to the bone, figure of speech. But I was exhausted. And it had been a while since I laughed or smiled. And I remember watching this movie and just being carefree, just kind of letting go. And it was such a great, great feeling to see that. And I'd seen that movie 3 times in movie theaters. Once at the drive-in, twice at movie theaters. But everyone since then I've had a special attachment to. So, the third one, actually, I loved because it was such a nice finality to that trilogy, which had gone production hell in between, with James Gunn getting removed over old tweets and yada, yada, yada. But Volume 3 is my favorite. That's my number 1. My number 2 is Volume 1. And my number 3 is Volume 2. Again, not a bad movie in there. So